Folks, it's offseason time in OWL, and you know what that means. It's time for a bunch of die-hard drunken fans to shitpost about OWL teams based on what little information that has been given to the public. The time of year where idiots like me can spam paragraphs and paragraphs on opinions that everyone seems to have but no one wants to express. Since I realize reading is for chumps, I decided to make it easier for all of you to consume my opinions through a rant video on teams based on information I got from underpaid journalists. Let's go over the Atlantic teams first. After a bipolar season to say the least, the Atlanta Reign and its fanbase are nothing but proud of the performance their team has put up this season. With the downfall that was Stage 3, the Atlanta Reign almost looked like Dufran was the sole reason why the team ever even had a chance of making the playoffs. However, Daddy Jeff had other plans and decided to give you guys the saving grace that you wanted since the start of Season 2. The 2-2-2 roll-lock. This was the break that you were given and you guys did not disappoint. Not only that, the London Spitfire decided to shoot themselves in the foot by playing down to weak competition. In the quarterfinals, no one expected you guys to beat the San Francisco Shock. You then prove everyone wrong and beat the San Francisco Shock in the biggest choke 9 in OWL history. Unfortunately, you ran out of miracles and lost the next 2 games when you were no longer seen as the underdog. Honestly, beating the Shock was a lucky break for you guys. Despite this, the team has never looked stronger in the new meta and may continue the train of domination. During the offseason for Atlanta, it doesn't seem like they're going to be changing their star-stiller roster anytime soon. Good luck, Atlanta. Just hope to God you don't end up like the Houston Outlaws.
What the fuck happened to the clicker, you fucking cocksucker?
To say I enjoy to see a Boston team suffering as much as the Uprising has is an understatement. Robert Kraft and the city of Boston have been blessed with winning teams season after season. So pardon me if I want to see other cities reach success other than the Asian handjob extraordinaire that is Robert Kraft. That being said, the team was doomed from the start of the season. Not only did they sell their entire star lineup from last season, but they took a huge risk to pick players from outside regions. You did get lucky with color hicks and fusions, but that's all the good I have to say about you guys. You guys were an absolute train wreck this season. You gambled on the meta with the note trade, Aim God decided to be a brat, and you now have one of the worst rosters in all of OWL. Despite these issues, you guys actually manned up. You got rid of the problem children, finally got a head coach to replace Krusty and Mineral, and decided to make some moves in Korea. So far, it seems that Boston has gotten the message from their recent failures. Did Mineral just pick up another Meta Athena player? Huh. I guess old habits die hard, eh, Mineral? The Florida Mayhem. Where the hell do I even start with this team? Along with achieving last place this season, the Mayhem have been plagued with poor management, incompetent coaches, and lazy scouting for the past 2 seasons. Hell, the architect for creating this roster was so bad that they fired him before the season even started. The team's incompetence was so bad that the coaching staff said screw this mess and gladly left the org for the Los Angeles Valiant. Barehands tried to pick up the pieces, but ended up with almost the exact same starting roster. Sure, Gargoyle was a great addition, but it doesn't make up for the fact that it took over 2 stages to get him. To be fair, the Mayhem put Barehands in a shitty situation, so I don't blame him directly. However, his hard-on for Korean players is what put this team from a bad situation to an even worse situation. He could have given the Mayhem a better season if he called up Mayhem Academy, but decided, nah, let's tank for the next 2 stages to wait for Korean talent that somehow is worse than the main roster. That sounds like a great idea. Despite the tank of 2 seasons, most Mayhem fans are more optimistic than they were last season. Barehands is gone, Unred has proven himself to be a solid head coach, and the Mayhem released the incompetent players. The only way for the Mayhem to go is up. And with rumors that the team is picking up the legendary runaway staff, there is no way Florida can fuck this up. Then again, it is Florida, so anything is possible.
Fire in the hole!
Another year, another season where you failed to make the playoffs. While you guys were busy focusing on fan service, you seem to have forgotten that this team is meant for winning games. How about Lego Man? We made it to the Stage 3 playoffs with a 5-2 record. We're not bad. Yeah, and the Florida Mayhem made 6th place in Stage 4. Should I call them good? Apparently Flame thinks so because he re-signed the entire starting lineup. You know, mediocre players like Spree, Coolmat, and Boink. You could make an argument about Raucus with his recent World Cup performance, but let's be honest. Playing a brain-dead support 90% of the time while your Zenyatta plays at bottom of the barrel does not mean you're a good support. You guys picked up some new coaches and also acquired Harsha from the Vancouver Titans, which looks good on paper. However, with the recent trend of picking up coaches from good teams to then have them do terrible on losing teams makes you begin to understand why they let them go in the first place. Despite this, the Outlaws have made some good moves in their DPS lineup after a few acquisitions from liquidation firms that they call teams. However, the roster is pretty much the same. I wouldn't say the team is tanking, but did you really have to keep the garbage backline? Just pray to God the next bet is hit scan. The London Spitfire come into this offseason with huge disappointment in the postseason and with fans questioning their validity as a Season 1 champion. At the beginning of the offseason, you really went hard on your coaching staff. You picked up 3 new coaches and were able to promote your assistant coach to head coach. And one of those coaches was the head coach from the New York Excelsior in Pavanier. Honestly, this looked exceptionally well for you guys at the start of the offseason. Then you came down to your players. London has done a very confusing job this offseason. For a team that has gone through more head coaches than there are seasons in the Overwatch League, the London Spitfire are a very special case. You definitely get brownie points for getting rid of players like Birdring, Nuss, and Gesture, but why Profit? Why Fury? What could you have possibly gained by trading these two? Bernard and Fuse. Taking a gamble, I see. Honestly, I would just flip a coin for this team. There ain't no predicting their future.
Excelsior!
Should I start calling you guys the Peak 2 Sooners? With another postseason semifinals loss followed by a shock beatdown, the New York Excelsior are fed up with being third place for another season. Unfortunately, when you finish another season strong, you tend to get comfortable with the situation that you are in. Yeah, they made some moves by dropping Flower, but let's face it, a 5 DPS roster was absolutely pointless from the start. You for some reason decided to let go of Meko, but with the Power 4 teams in Korea, I'm sure you'll be able to find a suitable replacement. The team is also attempting to change by releasing head coach Pavan, but I don't think that will be enough for radical change. Honestly, I don't have a solution for their struggles. Hell, if I was a fan of this team, I would be excited for the regular season and tell everyone else to screw off when we inevitably lose the playoffs. The NYXL are in a dilemma right now. They want to enact change to win a championship, but due to regular season performances, it's hard to say that letting go of good players is a good idea. Overall, the NYXL are just going to have to hype up the fan base and repeat previous performances. Enjoy your regular season, because that's all the good you're going to get for this team. Just like the Houston Outlaws, when you pander to fan service, you end up getting burned. The Paris Eternal at the start of the season were looking like a strong contender in Europe, only to get completely trashed by superior Korean competition. While Shadowburn and Soon were great additions on the side of experience, the team overall fell flat. Our expectations for Paris' performance turned into reality, as you were the only team the entire season not to get a stage with a plus 500 record. They wanted to create a roster that represented the heart of Europe, but in the end ended up to be a fan service team to pander to the French audience. Thankfully, you're not as dumb as the Houston Outlaws, and almost release all of the baggage that was holding you guys back. Notice I put an emphasis on almost. However, with the team going through a rework, the question remains, who are they gonna pick up? Oh my god. You crazy bastards did it. Looks like you guys are gonna finally stop selling yourselves as Europe's team. Well, almost.
Good evening, Twitter. This is your boy, Eat That Pussy 445.
Speaking of below average, let's pivot the conversation to the epitome of average for the past 2 seasons, the Philadelphia Fusion. I know you guys like to talk about how great it was that you had a crazy miracle run in Season 1, but let's face it, it was just a miracle. Also, the Eagles won in the same year, so did you really think God would allow 2 Philadelphia teams to win in the same year? That's heresy. The second season of your existence is where your true colors showed. Competing against high-level competition and playing down to low-performing teams. Reality finally struck you guys in the form of a loss to the Shanghai Dragons. This was the moment you realized you were bad and decided to do a rework. The contract status situation that Philadelphia put themselves in is quite favorable. Many players were under free agency or under team options, so it was an open door for you guys to do a complete rework. I would also say get a new main tank, but apparently Philadelphia decided to sign Sato to a 2-year contract last offseason. You'll regret it now, Philly? The rework also comes with the removal of Hayes and named Hawaii as head coach and replacement for former Seoul Dynasty head coach KDG. Oh god, hopefully that works out for you. You got rid of risky support players and KYB was just acquired only to get rid of Fraggy. Your acquisitions were absolutely perfect. You called up Alarm, re-signed EQO, and bought Funny Astro and... Fury? Wait, Fury? Don't you already have a Star Flex tank? You know, the one that rhymes with Loco? Guess Comcast allows you to burn money as much as Dallas. Wow, You guys were a train wreck this season. Sure, you had a great start to the season, but once Stellar left you guys, you just fell apart. Not only that, in a last-ditch effort to save his job, Bishop decided that there's no time to wait for Korean talent and just straight up picked up players from NA contenders. I know some of you guys might call me a hypocrite for asking Florida to call up their English-speaking roster, but the difference is Florida already had their mixed roster. They had months and months of preparation to get the roster ready before the season started. Toronto out of nowhere just called up English-speaking players, hoping to God communication would sort itself out. Of course, Bishop was fired for this decision. At the end of the season, Toronto said, screw Korea, we're going English. Normally, I would accuse them of building a fan service team and not a winning team, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Sure, they picked up in a rumor to acquire Canadian players, but their selections are based on their talent and not their nationality. Kareev is a legendary flex support, Agilities is one of the best projectile DPS in the business, and Beast Halo from Fusion University has proven great skill in Korea. And with rumors that Surefour may be joining the squad, this team looks primed for a playoff win. Is that a feeling of optimism I have for you Defiant fans? Don't get too comfortable, the offseason isn't over yet. The Washington Justice, the 101 on how not to build an expansion team. If there is any proof to believe that former NYXL staff are cursed, just look at this team alone. Wizard Hyung's ability to turn around an already broken team had already failed from the very beginning. Not only that, but you also picked up washed up and underperforming talent in Janice, Samsam, Hirion, and Guido. Ado was perceived to be good with his time in the Shanghai Dragons, but his meta-specific playstyle is what made him a fad of the times. The team was built for 2-2-2 roll lock, and that was the problem from the start. They gambled that the meta would transform into their favor, not realizing that Blizzard has a terrible reputation at consistently changing the meta. You did get a break in Stage 4, however it was too little too late. At this point you had to make roster changes. Wizard Hyung was fired, John Galt from the Los Angeles Gladiators was in, and the trash was taken out to the curb. You also made a good selection by buying Roar and decided to pick up a Korean DPS player named Tuba from China? I guess you gotta pick up players that are not used to speaking the same language. So far the team is incomplete, but the city of DC is starting to get a streak of champions. The Nationals won the World Series, the Capitals won the Stanley Cup. Who knows? Maybe the Washington Justice could be the three-peat for the great city of DC. Or have it blow up in their face. I don't know. At least you're better than the Outlaws this season.
Alright, Zephyr's on it. BKB's there, okay.
Oh, this is going to be embarrassing, isn't it?
No, it is.
I got a bad feeling.
Sato.
I got a bad feeling about this one, Monty. Oh, Zephyr. Oh, no. Oh, no. No, you can't let that happen.
Well, there's an unforced error if I ever saw one.